Hi friends, I have a great guest with me today. This is SanjayPurohit, who I used to work with for almost 8-9 years at Infosys, and Sanjay was like my FPG, friend, philosopher and guide. I've gone to you a lot of times for advice and suggestions when I needed suggestions and advice. And Sanjay is somebody who comes with a wealth of experience. He's also a rock star in his own right. He has got his own band, right? And he has done a truckload of things. He is also deeply into music, Hindustani and that kind of stuff. But the interesting thing about today's, and the first question that I want to get to, Sanjay has recently taken over the PPS platform at Infosys, which products, platforms and solutions portfolio of Infosys, which is intending to come up with a third of the company's revenues over the next 5 years or so, which is an ambitious task and an aggressive task, as it were. So Sanjay, do you want to talk a little bit more about how the transition has been and what you see as the future for the technology world, which you see as impacting the revenue portfolio?
Sure, Rajiv. Firstly, it's good to see you again. Didn't expect to be sitting and recording something, but this is fun. So when I think about the future, obviously all of us understand, and I don't need to repeat that for anyone, is that never before in the history of our lives have so many things happened simultaneously at the same time. Whether it's what's happening with social, whether it's what's happening with devices, what's happening with the cloud, what's happening with video, what's happening with screens. There's so many things that are happening, and interestingly they're happening together. They're not happening sequentially. So obviously when a whole bunch of things happen together, then they have the ability to exponentially multiply into possibilities, options and those kind of things. So and at the same time, when we look at the world ahead of us, when I think about tomorrow, and that's what I have been working on for more than 2 years now, is to understand what are the key drivers of how things will happen tomorrow. Clearly, I see 7 patterns emerging. One important facet of these patterns is that these patterns are the ones that hold great opportunity for how companies can create value in the times to come. 3 of these patterns are, I would call them market-centric patterns, which means at the core of that thinking of the pattern is that it has the potential to create new markets. One, of course, is the behavior of the digital consumers and how digitally active consumers are becoming. Second is the new models of commerce, which are more mobile, more micro, more inclusive. Third is the whole issue of what's happening in emerging economies and what you can do. So these are very market-centric patterns out of which you can really think through and figure out what you want to do with your business. 2, I believe, are very, very sustained innovation themes that I can see coming almost like a wave or a tsunami, if you will, depends on the speed at which the world responds. One is to do with sustainability and the second is to do with healthcare. Because while a lot has been said about it, real innovations are still gathering momentum, and I can see that the activities are bubbling at a much faster pace than ever before. And obviously many such things, it is the effect of things coming together and you sort of hitting a tipping point beyond which these things explode. And what we will see in our lives, that these things will explode in front of our eyes. So when I look into the future, 2 innovation-centric themes. And then there are 2 other things which are about how organizations really use technology. One of them I call as the smarter organization, which is about how do you simplify a company, how do you change the paradigm of collaboration and learning in the company, how do you really make a company more adaptable and flexible. That itself is a completely new opportunities for many organizations. And the second is all this interesting pervasive computing capabilities that we see because of the sensors, because of the new paradigms in intelligence, vis-a-vis the traditional paradigms in intelligence that we have seen all the time, and of course the cloud. So when I look at the world of tomorrow, I look at it through these 7 lenses all the time. Whenever I'm looking at anything, I'm trying to see what can I see, what facets of this can I see through one of these 7 lenses. Do I see behind this happening, do I see a digitally active consumer? Do I see a new model of commerce emerging? Do I see something interesting happening? Or an interesting way of applying this to an emerging market or an emerging economy? Do I see seeds of a sustainability-oriented innovation? Do I see seeds of a healthcare innovation? Do I see how this will help corporations become much more responsive and smarter? And do I see some interesting pervasive capabilities that will bring the computing experience to life? So when you ask me the question, when I think about tomorrow, what do I think? I think of these things.
Wonderful.
Underlying there are many technologies, right? For example, one of the simplest paradigms, which is your passion paradigm as well, is that we all lead our lives through screens, right? At home, we got one screen called the television. When we're walking around, we got a TV. We're sitting in a car, we got an iPad. In office, you got a laptop, then you got a movie screen, and I don't know if anybody has done that math, but if statistically we were to find out how much time do we actually spend looking at each other vis-a-vis looking at screens, I'm sure the screens will win.
I know.
Right? So now the question is,
when you think about it that way.
what can you do with screens? Right? Either you get rid of screens, or you identify new and more interesting things that you can do with screens. I'm sure you would have been in touch with Pranav of MIT, who's doing very fascinating work on how to get rid of screens. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's looking at a different paradigm altogether. But then there are other things, what can you do with a screen? Right?
Yes.
So when I look at these 7 patterns, then you look at different technologies and you try to see what can you do in the context of these things and try to create some scenarios of life, because in the end all of this is so that all of us can have better lives.
Yeah, totally.
So that's the way I essentially think about it.
I think that was a very beautiful example that you brought to life, Ron. The screen viewpoint, I think, is it definitely is thought-provoking, definitely for me. The next question, Sanjay, and I'm cognizant of the time, is basically that you have to leave, of course. So is basically you've had a very interesting journey. So I remember sort of meeting up with you when you walked into Infosys. And this was the early days, and I remember coming to you for a couple of things, and you brought to that conversation at that point in time a wealth of experience from your viewpoints at a couple of institutions, including the Tatas, right? And do you want to talk a little bit more about your personal journey and why, how you've come here? What has been your motivation? What has been your guiding principles, as it were, in terms of what you've done?
Well, I would look at it very simply. You make it sound as if it was something big thing. It is nothing that big. It's a very, very simple. I've had a very, very fantastic last 11 years at Infosys, and I continue to really cherish and what I'm doing at Infosys. It's really, really exciting times. And it's the most interesting part is that it's been exciting all the years. It's not that it's become exciting now. It continues to be exciting all the time, right? That's the way I see it. But more importantly, what I have personally tried to focus on is that at any instance in time, if you take a slice of your life, you look at yourself today, there are some things that you're doing today, and there are some things that you have a vision of or aspire to do. It is really exhilarating if you can actually work on both, because in reality you have to deliver today to the organization, to yourself, and to the ecosystem at large. You have to deliver today, and yet you have to equip yourself and prepare yourself for what you envision is going to happen in the future. So all through my journey of the last 21, 22 years, it's always been that I am very deeply embedded into what I'm doing today. And at the same time, there is a part of my mind that's always working on what are the other possibilities, how can I bring more value to whatever I'm doing. And it has always opened up more and more doors, more and more possibilities. Right? I interact with a lot of youngsters who will always ask me this question, saying, "Tell us the story of your life." I say, it's very simple. You have to be extremely diligent and hardworking with what you are doing today, and you have to be extremely excited about what you will do in the future.
Fantastic. I think that sounds like a great mantra. Thank you very much, Sanjay. I appreciate the time. I know you are heading off to a big event now. Best of luck. And,
thank you so much.
Let's stay in touch.
As always, pleasure meeting you.
Absolutely.